think you can see that right over there, but that's the south coast of Sicily right there. Hello and welcome, I'm Tim. Probably should keep that camera out of the sun. There we go, how's that? I'm Tim and this is SP Paquita, and we're about 50 miles from our destination. We've gone about 120 miles in the last 20 hours. And unfortunately, well, we knew that this was happening by the weather. We're trying to beat this system that's coming this way. We still don't have internet because we're too far away. We got to get 12 miles from shore for internet. But we knew that this was going to be a motor-rich trip. And that was a price we were willing to pay only because we want to get this way and in safe harbor before the blow comes late this afternoon, or I shouldn't say this afternoon, tomorrow, and hopefully tomorrow. Anyway, that's it. But I am here to tell you, well, you know, many of you have asked, how did I meet Chrisalita? And I'm going to share a secret with you guys. So if any of you are wondering how such a beautiful woman I was able to sweep off her feet, I'll tell you the secret at the end. But I did think that while we're going along here, we're waiting. The wind at 10, it's still like 6 in the morning here, 7 in the morning, something like that. But the wind is just barely behind us. We have the sails up just so that it stiffens the ride up. You can see the seas over here. So it's not bad at all, but it's still a little rolly. So we're motor sailing, and we're going to let this keep going like this until hopefully the wind builds behind us, and we'll be able to shut down here in a couple hours and sail the rest of the way to where we got to go. But to answer the questions, and believe me, I love it when you guys write comments and questions, and I think I have a pretty good track record of responding to every single comment that everyone ever writes. So feel free to do that. Anyway, yeah, so to tell you the story of Tim and Chrisalita, I should first, spoiler alert here, many people think that Chrisalita's with me because she needed papers. And about 22 years before I knew Chrisalita, she became a U.S. citizen. So there, that is not the case. Anyway, yeah, so years ago I had been married and divorced. I got married again, and that was kind of out of necessity. I needed somebody to help me take care of my kids, and that worked well. Unfortunately, my second wife was a very good woman, but she had her problems, and she was probably the best female friend I've ever had. But I don't know that marrying somebody that's just your friend and nothing else was a good idea. Anyway, when that went south, struggling through 2 American divorces, and to be fair, the first wife, she basically just left, and so she didn't hurt me financially. So I had a lucky break with the first one, not so much the second one, but that's okay. Anyway, there's something in the water here. Plastic. Oh no, maybe a roll of tape. Anyway, so after my second divorce, I thought that I would never get married again, and the joke my daughter and I always have is that my daughter says, "Dad, can you please stop giving half of my inheritance away?" And if you know my daughter, you'd realize that she's very funny, but she's not materialistic. So that was just her way of being funny. But anyway, yeah. So I was in my early 50s, and not one to really be alone. And I started dating online, and I started saying that I would only date women. I would only date Latinas, because years ago when I was 17, I lived in Madrid, and I think I spoke. It was much easier when you're 17 than when you're in your 50s to learn a language, and unfortunately, having a second language is a perishable skill, especially if you don't speak it perfectly. And so, not speaking it for many years, my Spanish had really gotten bad, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm done being married or dating these gringas. I'm only going to date Latinas, and so I went online, and probably way more information about me than you really need to know, but I can tell you a couple things about dating online, especially internationally. One is, there is a plethora of wonderful people out there. Everybody says, "Oh, don't go on this. You're gonna meet some psychopath, or they're gonna cut your kidneys out, or whatever." There's all these people. "Oh, this is a terrible site. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that." Well, in 3 or 4 years of dating online, I can't say that I ever really. I only met one person I would call a psychopath, and that wasn't dating online. That was somebody I met in Puerto Rico that turned out to be, well, that's another story. But anyway, no, they're wonderful people. And but most of the Latinas that I was dating from South and Central America and the Caribbean all had something in common. They were all beautiful, and they all took very good care of themselves, and that's about it. And I'm not trying to disparage women. I think that, in their culture, that works really well for them. Unfortunately, most of them in their profile pictures were them in bikinis on beaches, and they looked magnificent. And I can tell you that with the exception of 1 or 2, almost all of them, none of them know how to swim. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. So, oddly enough, Caribbean and South and Central American women hang out at the beach, look like $1 million in a bikini, and don't know how to swim. Blew my mind. Anyway, knowing that I was all looking to sail around the world, or at least spend a large chunk of the remainder of my life out at sea, I wanted somebody to share the experience with me. And so somebody who doesn't swim, that's going to be an issue, obviously. So then you say, well, you could teach them how to swim. Look, if somebody doesn't know how to swim and they're in the 40s or 50-year-old, they're probably going to get seasick and everything else, and they're probably not going to be comfortable around the water. Then there was another issue, and that's that even if they knew how to swim and they were great and they had wonderful skills and all that sort of stuff, if they're not from a first world nation, and it sounds so awful saying that, but this is just the truth. Those of us that are in first world nations are very lucky in that we can travel almost anywhere in the world. There are exceptions, but for the most part, we can go where we need to go, and if there's a visa or immigration thing, we can just deal with that where we need to deal with it. But people from other countries, especially countries where people immigrate from, they can't even get, it's like a 10-month process just to get a tourist visa, let alone anything else. So imagine, where this really hit home for me was, if any of you have watched Sailing Uma, there's a Canadian guy who, his girlfriend, I don't think he's married her yet, but I haven't watched it in years. But anyway, he went to school and was majoring in architecture, and he met a girl from Haiti that was going to the same college he was, and they both graduated as architects, and then they bought a little boat, and they've been sailing it all up in the high latitudes now. But anyway, when they were sailing around the Caribbean, and especially when they went to other countries, he would go ashore and she would have to stay on the boat because they weren't allowing her to get off the boat or enter the country by land because she was from Haiti. And you say, well, that's Haiti. Yeah, but the immigration or the customs and immigration status is almost the same for everybody else. So it's very difficult. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying for me, I mean, if you guys have been watching this, you know the difficulties I had just getting into Greece legally. Well, imagine if it was somebody from another place. Anyway, so not knowing how to swim, not being familiar with the water, and there's also something else too. If you're a beautiful woman and you don't have any education, I'm not trying to be a snob, but I like to talk to people. I like to know what's going on. And if you don't have any reference points as far as history and books that you've read and different philosophies, things that we learn in school, that's a tough one. Beauty is wonderful, but it runs dry pretty quickly, And so I wanted somebody that had some education, and quite frankly, I hate to sound so fickle, but I don't know if it's fickle, but maybe, I don't know. I didn't want somebody that was destitute. In other words, that had no skills, no job, and no money. And it wasn't because I wanted to put them to work or take any of their money. I just didn't want somebody to see me as I was their retirement plan. Having said all that, after a few years, three years or so, 3.5 years, something like that, I don't know, whatever it was. I gotta tell you, your old buddy Tim kind of got disillusioned. I was like, this is never gonna happen. I'm not gonna marry a woman just so that she can get papers. That doesn't sound right to me. So I'm just gonna have to do this on my own. I'm gonna have to live my own dream. And you know what? Hopefully I'll find somebody along the way, and if that doesn't work out, then I keep moving and whatever. And so I stopped with the online dating apps. But something happened, and quite frankly, I've told this story a certain way, and in looking at it, I think I might be wrong. And I don't mean to deceive anybody. You know how your memory paints in the colors you want to see, not how it actually was. Well, it seemed to me that after a few years of being divorced, I finally went into my Facebook profile and switched it over to divorced and not married. And I've been telling the story that when that happened, somehow it automatically put me in some sort of Facebook dating app. And looking back at that, I don't think that's exactly what happened. I think that I had said, oh look, Facebook has a dating app, I'll try it out, and nothing ever happened. I never really pursued it, nobody ever pursued me, everything was there, and I had forgotten all about it. So I got rid of all the other dating apps, and I was just kind of doing my thing and just kind of concentrating on the future, making videos on my other channel, and I was happy. And you know what? It sounds kind of weird, I don't mean to preach to any of you, but I'm a firm believer that all things do work together for good. In that moment, that time, it was really the first time that I was ever accepting that I was alone. All my life, I've been with somebody, and when one thing ended, I started into something else, and all that sort of stuff. And I've always been, I didn't know it, but in retrospect, looking back, I may have always been afraid to be alone. And I started to really enjoy it. I was like, you know what? I'm older now, it's cool. And I like doing my own thing, and everything was going well. And because I guess I didn't say this part, but with the dating apps, everything seemed hollow. Like I said, the women I dated were wonderful. They were great. Never had one bad experience. Well, you can see some. I think I have some video. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. They were all wonderful, but it all seemed hollow. It didn't seem right. And quite frankly, if you're going to be in a relationship, you should be in a relationship with somebody that cares about you like you care about them. And that's all nice. That sounds good. And if it's something that's not a long-term thing, that doesn't really happen that way. So that's where I just kind of accepted that I'm going to be alone, and that's how it's going to be. And then, just as I'm kind of getting into my groove and I'm all set being alone and everything's fine, I get a Facebook notification. And I'm like, what? What is this? I didn't even know I was there. And like I say, I had probably done it a long time ago, but I've only gotten one Facebook notification in my life. And it's this Crisálida de Los Angeles. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll check that out. And you know what? I saw her, and at this point, I was just like, oh, God, it's another beautiful woman with probably, you know, oh, whatever. Anyway, she was right in Brooklyn, and that's where our tugboats were. And I not thinking that I had nothing to lose, and I had very low expectations. I told her, I said, look, we're going to be over here in Brooklyn, and nothing's going on today. But I can get off the boat to like go shopping or whatever. But I got to be like 10 minutes away from the boat. If the dispatcher calls, I got to be able to go. She goes, okay. And if you know anything about tugboats, I can tell you that, yeah, we go all over everywhere, but we always go to the worst sections of town. So wherever there's a, recycling center, a sewage treatment plant, that's where you're going to see the oil terminals and tugboats as well. She had to drive to the worst part of town in Brooklyn and all that. And I'm like, man, if this chick even shows up, it'll be a miracle. And she did. And it was wonderful. And anyway, we had a wonderful time. And that was about 4.5 years ago. And she's awesome. And I'm very happy to say that she wanted, after we became serious, she wanted us to talk about marriage. And there's probably a million ways I could have said that I wasn't really interested in that, and I probably picked the worst way to say that, and something I will regret forever, but fortunately, unlike many Latinas, she hasn't held that against me. Anyway, I finally made a compromise with her. I said, look, because by this time she had been sailing with me, and she knows how to swim. She's an American citizen. She speaks Spanish. She's educated. She has her own business. She made her own money. She pays her own way. She checks every single box. And and the longer I'm with her, the more in love I am with her. I can honestly say that to you. And I hope that she feels the same. I'm quite certain she does. But anyway, I had made a deal with her in trying to recover from not answering her question about marriage the way that I probably should have. I told her, I said, look, someday I'm going to quit my job and do this Atlantic Loop. And you're going to come with me. You're going to quit your job. If we do this Atlantic Loop and you've lived on a 42-foot fiberglass island with me for a year and a half, or at least a year anyway, and gone, 20,000 miles or whatever, I don't know how, and we're on this tight space together, and you still want to get married, we can get married. So, the big news is that in April, we hope to get back to the Dominican Republic by then, and we'll get married now, and live happily ever after. And the running joke that I have is that, and it's serious, 4.5 years. Chrisalita and I have never had one argument. It's amazing. Never, everyone says don't go to bed angry. Never have. Never have had one argument. She's amazing. But the secret to that may be, for any of you that are wondering how you can get into a relationship and not have any arguments, fights, anything like that, get with somebody that doesn't speak your language. It works perfectly. This communication thing is way overrated. Of course, I don't mean that. But anyway, now, as promised, I will tell you the secret. If any of you guys out there want to get that extra step to be where an ugly, old, fat, hairy guy like me can land this beautiful Crisálida, how any Latina will find you irresistible. Many guys make mistakes. They think it might be your wealth, your status, the car you drive, the house you live in, the job you have, the money you throw around, maybe your genetics, how you look, a strong jawline, manicured hair, all that stupid stuff. None of that matters. If you're looking to get with a Latina, after you take a shower, you guys put on really expensive cologne, there's a cologne you need to put on, and it's very cheap. Anybody can find it anywhere in the world, and Latinas find it irresistible, and it's called Fabuloso. Anyway, that's it. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, be safe, and as always, I'll see you on the one.